He was like, it's on and popping. Let's go. It's going. Rolling, rolling. I feel it. I feel
That'd
it.
have been a bit much. That'd have been a bit much. Okay. We are live. All right. Cheers, Wes.
Absolutely.
Nice. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. I'm taking early morning risk. Just for those that don't know, I seen an article came out recently that said like the tea bags aren't the healthiest. And
Yes.
so I'm taking risk every morning right now until I run out of tea bags because who's not gonna buy something new until he uses it all?
Wisdom. That's wisdom.
How
Shoot.
about you, Ashley? How are you?
I'm doing well. Same. Like, I have my caffeine this morning. I don't even have tea, but I did read that article, plastics coming out in the tea bag, but it's all good. Listen, good morning, everyone. April Jackson here, Wesley Hamilton. We're so happy to be with you all. Last month, oh my gosh, huge storm came through.
Oh,
You were in Kansas City, right? Just broke down.
oh yeah.
Yeah, we had that this week. Just huge storm, and our hearts go out to those who have been dealing with the storms and the floods. I mean, West Coast had it for a long time. East Coast got hit up.
Yeah,
Climate
I'm
change.
actually happy that it's not happening out west anymore. But as I migrate back to the Midwest, it just seems like it's awakening because what we got the other day was just unexpected, or at least for me. I don't watch TV, so I don't even know what the news is talking. But yeah, it's been crazy. So prayers out to everybody that is dealing with some type of hardship or something that's along with these storms because I know like in Vermont and things like that, it's just been looking
Yes,
really bad. So
yes,
I
yes.
know these wheels right here would have made it, y'all. Oh no, it would have been it for West if I was out there because I'm seeing people on top of, cars and stuff. And I'm like,
Very.
my friend was like, "Hey, I don't know what like you see the water rising, don't go that way because I don't know what you would do." And I thought about that, like, man, that is crazy to when you witness it and think like for someone like myself that might not have that can drive but might not have the ability to get out of the car fast enough or get on the hood or hold on to it, right?
Right.
I mean, if it was in a movie though, it would look pretty cool because
Yeah,
I
you would
mean.
have did it. You would have did it. Live action. Go. Um, This brings me back to a memory. So, everyone, this is July and it's Disability Pride Month. And this time last year, I think it was July 23rd, Wes and I were in a storm together. And I'm not exaggerating it forward. It was just the heavens opened up, the winds blew, and remember, we were huddled like in that theater, like wheelchairs were turned in. We were all like hovering all over each other.
It was wild, child. It was a storm. Yeah, you had to brace yourself, and it was hard to brace.
It
Um, it
was.
was crazy. I mean, it was
Signs,
crazy.
street signs falling over. It was a nice event. And then Libby was like, gonna keep talking.
I feel like the storm was hating. The storm was hating. The storm was like, nah, we not gonna go ahead and amplify this disability pride today. We just gonna go ahead and just rain down on all the wheels, like.
A year ago today. The sun is out right now, but we had a storm this week, just a couple of days ago, where trees came down. And I was thinking, Mother Nature has its way of clearing things out, good, bad, ugly, and different. So,
I mean, especially when it's a matter of minutes and the trees are gone, right?
yeah,
Like, and it'd be the older trees that just been holding on forever. It's like, man,
done.
like it. But I like how you said it has a way of clearing things out, and even though most people might, look at it, especially with the trees and stuff, like, man, it done messed up the house or the car.
Yeah,
It's like, well, it never, this is this world,
right,
and
right.
so it could be clearing itself out to create something new. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that.
So we're together now. on a non-stormy day on the West Coast or the Midwest East Coast. You've been on some travels, which I've been so excited to watch. And let me tell you, I have a date idea for us, Wes. Wes knows I'm always coming up with shenanigans. We're going to see each other soon. You were floating. I don't know if you were in the Dead Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Look, I'm talking like I've been there, but I did have some friends who've gone and brought me water from there. But I don't know I don't know if you've ever gone to a float spa.
Mm-mm. But
And
I've heard.
yeah, I think we should do it, Wes, when I come down.
I'm down.
Because doesn't it feel wonderful just to be in this? So in the Dead Sea, everyone, and in the float spa, but Dead Sea has just so much more history and spiritualism to it. But even in a float, you get into a real dense body of water, and it's densely packed with sea salt, and you don't sink. How did that feel? Like, how was that whole experience?
It was different. Of course, because it wasn't like I could just roll into it. So I did have to get assistance to get to the water. But I got into like a beach chair that was able to get in the water. But the funny thing was that the chair got in the water, then it started floating, man. So it was like the chair was floating, I was floating in the chair.
Everyone's floating.
Everybody was floating. But I think just getting in it and knowing like the value of like being within that salt and putting the mud on it was different, and it was good. You just seen people out there. It was a whole like beach setup. Like it was hot. You at the very bottom, what they say is the lowest point of like the earth or something, or like it's something like that. It's like it's a very 1,200, like negative 1,200 feet below.
Oh wow.
And so it's very hot. The water is kind of warm. It's not one of them things like you're just about to hop in a cold salt water bath. Like
right.
But it is, it's peace of mind. And it was the softest skin when I came out. You know what I mean? Like
that's what I like.
I was with a group of people, and half was me and half was women. And just imagine like people helping. I'm like, dang, your skin's soft. It was super soft. Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't stay in it really long. And that was because, of course, water got close to my eyes, and
it stings, right? Or I don't know if it stings.
It will sting in your eyes if you have cuts or something. They say it'll sting. Women, they kept telling the women like don't shave before you get in the Dead Sea because that'll burn. But the mud is supposed to be able to kind of help with that. So you put the mud over your body first. That's what they kind of recommend. Then you get in the water. And then you get out the water, you can put the mud back on, and stuff like that. So I did it all though. And
proud of you.
Again, they were pretty accessible. They did have a wheelchair path to go directly into the water.
Nice.
And so it wasn't very awkward until the chair started floating. So
I'm glad you did that. And I'm glad you experienced that. I will do my research on the float spas because it's the same thing, except you're just not in a large body of water. They're private pods. Some have private rooms, so you can like put yourself in and get yourself
nice.
out. And then you can make it black. You can listen to meditation music or any kind of music you want to. And if you all have not been floating, it's just really a way to ease a lot of, I think, pressure off of your joints. And, anytime like you soak in Epsom salt or whatever, salt has healing properties. So I want to do it because I think it'll help me sleep better at night. And me, I love some water anyway. So take me out.
Well, I went to the Holy Land, right? Like I went to the Holy Land, which is referred by, many. And, I think everything there was moments in every day and everything that we experienced to allow, some type of like peace of mind and like that ability to like have those healing. Like, I mean, again, it was just from the outdoors and kind of taking in like the nature there, because it's beautiful. Israel is beautiful. We went all the way over to like Jordan, and I mean, it was just, yeah, it was, so I'm just thinking like even outside of the salt and things,
Mhm.
I share some things with you outside of this that I felt was very, very, good to know, and very healing. Oh, like I had to share this, April.
Okay.
Like, we went out to the middle of the desert. It was like in this big old crater, and it was pitch black. And they're like, "Hey, we just want you to get out here, and for 10 minutes, you're gonna walk or roll around, and you're gonna just speak."
Mhm.
Oh, it's so powerful. April.
Really?
Like talk for the full 10 minutes without stopping. Right. So you got to think, how do your mind just keep coming with these thoughts? And everyone was thinking that this was a crazy thing to do. But the thing is that once you get into the dark, the stars and the moon are lighting up the sky. So it did get brighter in there and your eyes adjusted. But at the same time, it was like you were speaking intentionally into the atmosphere or to who you might have faith in. And it was all of these things, and everyone came back, and it was like one of those healing, just a healing moment, and it was
Mhm.
like even that helped with the stress, with the sleep and things, because you kind of released it all in 10 minutes. Because if you're trying to pray real quick, and depending on who you are, you could pray
Right.
for a very long time. But
Right.
there are some people that kind of do it quickly, or just you think you got other things to do. So for 10 minutes, it's like,
Like, that's a lot of time. Sometimes it seems like it. Sometimes it's just not enough time.
so it was just powerful. So, I definitely would share more, but that was one experience that, I would do many more times.
So how can I ask? Because I'm trying to really get myself to go. Like, how did you? How did this happen? Like, who did you go with? Like, how did this trip come to pass?
I know, right? I really didn't know anything about this trip till a month before. Um, and I had to start there, because I remember I was just going through some thoughts, some deep thoughts, and I was trying to figure out where I needed to be. I take yoga, meditation practice, breath work practicing on Wednesdays, and I had told my instructor that I couldn't make it, right? But I had a meeting scheduled for that Thursday. And I was like, I can't make it. I got a lot of stuff on my mind and stuff. And so that morning, they sent me a podcast about entering the unknown. And I'm like, I said, all right, I'm gonna listen to it. It's like 2 hours long too, April, but
A
it had
long,
me fired up
really?
really good. And I got into the meeting, and I started talking to this woman, and she started sharing with me, you know, um, this experience, that they offer for individuals to go over to Israel, to learn, be educated, but it hadn't been accessible. And so they were going to take the initiative to try to create access around it, and wanted me to be out there to, help.
Yeah.
And so, of course, me being me, and I don't know if, when I mean by that, I mean like black men coming from where I come from, this stuff don't happen. So I'm over here on the fence, like, I don't even want to say nothing about it. Like,
Side eyeing it
I'm
a
like,
little bit,
I'm
huh?
preparing, but until I see a ticket, this ain't real,
Yeah.
and it actually came. And again, I don't know, I played this role of not going with expectations. So I didn't really pay attention to what the agenda was. I just know it was an 8-day trip.
Okay.
And so I went on and accepted it. And when I got there, I realized that it was an 8-day trip that was going to be about 20 plus people that I did not know, never knew who they were, their background or anything. There was a booklet given to us when we first started that had everybody's bios and information in, but they said don't look at nobody's bio. So it's one of them things of like getting to know a stranger in a way from and as you learn about life and a new perspective, right? Like, and so we all came together with our thoughts and processes of, I mean, people came from all over the place. You had people coming from Africa, you had people coming from, that were from France, some people that were from America, things like that. So you had all these minds coming together, talking different topics. And I don't know, it was just, it was, the way it came about was just faith, and I guess it was just timing. The experience that we were on was called Impact, which so the organization that brought me is called the Schusterman Foundation,
Okay.
and they this trip was uh, around nonprofit and impact leaders, so people that were in some type of area within this nonprofit field, fundraising, anything like that, or just trying to create an impact within the community that you represent. And it was beautiful, but again, like, it was just one of those things that I just kind of risked, took that chance. I mean, I was going into the unknown. I mean, we don't get shared experiences like this, especially
It's
over
once in a
here.
lifetime if it happens.
And and so for me, it was like me flying in. We flew into Tel Aviv, and I'm like, it's not desert. And people looking at me like, you joking. I'm like, no. For a long time, I stressed the fact that I literally thought it was going to be desert when I landed
Yeah.
in the Middle East, right? And it
Mhm,
was like, it felt like I was landing in LA when I looked
mhm,
down coming off the plane.
mhm.
And, of course, we went more and more into the desert. So I did get to experience some real life, but
Right.
it was just that, and we literally had our eyes open to a lot more in life, and yeah, and it was very enlightening. And, like you said, I've been sharing the days.
Mhm.
I still have like 2 more days because the days were so packed
It
with
looked like you were just busy, like, nonstop.
listen, it was nonstop. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I had ever did like that much, but I understood it. You know what I mean? And I understood why it was poured into us the way it was. And still to this day, since I've been back for a few weeks, I'm still processing things, and that's kind of why
Mhm.
I'm sharing it on my social the way I'm doing it. Like, day one, this is what happened. Day two, it's because I was introduced to a lot of information, knowledge, that I never knew, and it allows me to come from a new place of serving,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so again, I entered the unknown and found a lot, and I think the biggest thing for me that I tied into was lineage. This year I've been talking a lot about like just learning my history to the point, April, like I even read my I am poem in front of everybody.
You did what?
I
Oh my gosh, I love that.
the last day we all sat out in the desert and had dinner and stuff, and they did like a karaoke open mic, and so I went out there and was like, after this trip, it's really helped me hone into the identity, and I have been
Mhm.
writing this, but I was like, this year alone I had not really read it, not like how I did it the first year and stuff.
Right.
And but this trip had made me understand, no matter what story we heard from a different group of people,
Right.
everyone knew their lineage past 100 years.
That's interesting.
And it made me really understand how lost we are as Black people here in America. And I think that was one thing that many people grasped, was that, we don't know too much of our history. And that's why certain people are tied to religion the way they are, because of
Right.
culture. That's why, families are strong the way they are because of history. And
Right.
like, when you think of such a broken people, that's really what I felt. And it just, it put a fire under me to really find it, and I've been searching, and I felt like that was just even another eye opener to
Yeah.
understand that you really are, you can create new, but you have to find what you're truly tied to. And it was a powerful thing for me to be able to acknowledge.
I'm so like there's so much richness in what you've shared, and I love the idea too of understanding our roots. And even when you're uprooted, I was speaking to someone about this. They were, they don't feel like they have roots. I'm like, we all do, but we're very uprooted sometimes. And that means you have to get repotted, right? You uproot something and you pot it in a different pot, or you put it in a different place. But how I think deep it is to know, like when you have roots, you feel sometimes like you have foundation, no matter what your life experience is. And then the fact that you had like this whole well-being aspect, this wellness, like mud bath and floating, and like all of that is a part of like really making us a human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, all of it, as you said. I mean, even just again, we practiced a lot of things. We embraced the culture. So,
Mhm.
we did Shabbat, and we learned, like, practicing the prayers over lighting candles and what that meant, and wine. I said I never drunk as much wine until I was over there. Like,
Jesus made water. He made wine out of water.
it was one of them things. Like, I'm like, why are we drinking wine and eating bread?
It's good for the soul.
Like, I'm telling you, it didn't click right away. I'm like, I'm drinking wine and eating bread every day. And I'm like, wine and bread. And then it clicked with me. I'm like, oh, it makes so much sense, right? Like, it was just, it
Communion
was.
all the time.
So, I mean, even that, like you said, being introduced to new ways of prayer and being introduced to new ways of finding yourself and speaking to yourself and understanding your light. Like, I think those were very powerful things that I was able to take in. And then just know that there was, we got introduced to the tech world over there, right? So knowing
That's my thing too.
that Tel Aviv is like one of, I think, if it's not the largest startup place in the world, right? So they have over like 7,100 startups within like a block radius. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy when you look at it and you hear the story of. But what I did learn was that people over there, they take a idea and they create something. They don't procrastinate. So most people buy into individuals over there because they don't procrastinate on their dreams. They say, oh, this is an idea, let me create that, and that was, again, we got to meet nonprofit founders over there that was truly trying to make a difference within their community. And it was just, it was powerful. So again, you had the holistic approach, you had the understanding of culture, you had like, and this was in 8 days, right? Like, in 8 days.
A lot. That was like immersive.
And then it was still times where we came together as a group and talked to each other to process what we had and what we had experienced. And you know what I mean? I had to share this one, especially with Disability Pride, being Disability Pride Month. They had us experience a dinner that was, it's called the Blackout, and it was deaf and blind servers and waiters. So you ate in the dark. And so for about 2.5 hours, I ate in the dark, and it was a wild experience. It shifted my perspective. Our waiter, he had a very powerful story. I felt like he was really comfortable in sharing his story because it felt like we were in his space, and and I really liked that perspective. And it was just so good, from just even the facility. Like, it just had braille coming from the front door all the way around. Like, everything was very thoughtful of the community that they bring in there. And so you definitely felt more like an outsider coming in,
Yes.
but it was, you know, they took each person one by one, like the server will come get you so they can sit you where you go. They tell
Mhm.
you how to pour your water, put your thumb in the cup. That's how you know that it's full. Like I'm like,
Mm.
huh, it was just like, I tell y'all right now, nobody poured their water twice. Like, like seriously, but it was the experience. So again, I probably done shared a lot of experiences so far, just in a few,
Yes.
a little bit of time, and so just that one alone was also just one of those moments and experiences that you just truly just was grateful for, and so yeah.
When you said he had a powerful story to share, and possibly it's because he felt safe because you were in his space, and that's so important. Like being in someone else's space, and we've talked about this a lot. Like I kind of created this program, Affinity Circles, and we want to do that with Open Up too, where people can come together in their space so they can freely share and freely talk, just like you and me. Like this is our space, this is our Black space. And
Yes,
you know, you can watch, you can listen, but we feel free and comfortable just to share. And then when you have that, then you can take that, you build your confidence, you build up resiliency, then you could take it out. And it's so important to give people just the space to be.
exactly. No, you're right.
Like find your community. You know what I mean? Like find your community and find where you can safely say, do, and be yourself.
Yeah, it's all about community. And I felt like that there was a community built like around before we even came in. So, for that individual that was working with us, there were multiple people, all around. And so they had a community that they operated together. They were able to talk and help out. Like you might have heard a glass or something once, and everyone kind of stopped and was like, hey,
Mhm.
gotta be quiet for a second. Like it was very, very, they set the tone, and you definitely was able to embrace it, and I'm not gonna say everyone was excited of the experience. Like some people couldn't really do the dark, some people, but it also just showed how much privilege we still have, I think, in my mind. Because
Mm.
when I came out, because the story that we had was an individual that had sight until he lost it.
Mm.
Right. And
Mm.
so, for someone like him to have to adjust and still, I mean, and he was a masseuse, yeah. So he started massaging us and stuff.
Oh, I wouldn't have left.
Listen, I'm like, he was like,
Like,
he was like, oh man, you feel kind of tensed up
you're
here.
like, I am not now. Keep rubbing.
I mean, again, he was comfortable enough, right, to be able to just, as we're talking, it was just such a cool vibe, and I really loved it. But it let me know when I came out, I was like, you know what? If I mean, the perspective I got was that I can do things if I didn't have sight. Like, unfortunately, like for me, it wasn't any other thought outside of that, but to know that if I didn't have eyes, that I could still see,
Right.
right? Like, and that's what it felt like. And it just, you embrace things like that and you understand, again, it goes to Disability Pride Month. Like, it's not if, but when we will all acquire a disability in life.
Yes.
And so no matter what that disability is, can you be proud of it? And can you create a space that's safe enough now for individuals so that if you happen to be a part of the community, you can be able to go right into that space that you helped create, and that's it. And that's what I felt, so it was, I felt it. It was good, y'all.
I love that. I love that. It's making me think just what you said too. Like, what are some things? This whole month is Disability Pride Month, people, friends. So, what can we do, Wes? Like, to really embrace it, and don't just embrace it for a month. Like things that you can amplify this month, or I guess, are things that you and I can share, Wes. But then, how do you sustain it and take it on with you? And I think one thing is to, like, during this month in time, like, give yourself awareness, educate yourselves on what it means to be to provide accessibility to others. And there are wide, I mean, disability is like huge. You can look at somebody and they look quote unquote normal, like they're standing on two legs and they're walking. The disability could be, you know, neurological, the disability can be physical, but like amplify something this month. That's what I want, is to share with people that take yourself out of your comfort zone, take yourself out of your bubble, and really understand what it means to have a disability. What do you think?
I agree. I agree with all of that. I agree with understanding how to create access for everybody. But I also, and this
Mhm.
is, and you know, this is safe space, y'all. This is my own bias, if I want to say,
Yeah.
but what I will say is that within the last few years, I have seen a shift, and I'm very open to the shift, and I accept it, right? Of highlighting a lot of invisible disabilities. But as you think of yourself, continue to include the individuals that have physical disabilities that are seen, that the barriers are created for. Because what I've seen is a lot of people amplifying their own personal story of how they hid their disability, and now that they're willing to share it, but hiding your disability created a barrier that is now a barrier for people with physical disabilities that can never hide it. And for
Mm,
me,
mm,
it is one of those things where even though you share your story and you could still have the able needs and ability to still access certain spaces, there's
yeah.
individuals like me that have never even had that access, no matter if I could own it or not. But when I speak disability, I'm speaking for you. So because the access that's created for me is going to be created for you. So when you
Right.
think, so for me, that's just when I want people to amplify it, continue to amplify the people that have always been seen, but have always faced the barrier more than anyone else that haven't been seen, but has still been able to have access. And I
Yeah.
know that's something that you have to understand or open your mind up to understand, but it's plain as day. If you can walk through the doors, no matter if you're struggling and someone can't roll through that same door, there's an issue. So when you speak
Right.
for you got to speak for everybody. And if you haven't shared your story because of whatever reasons, make sure that the person whose story has always been seen before shared can also be heard too.
Ooh, story seen before shared. So many levels. Like I'm like, yeah. I was just on a panel this past week, and we were amplifying Black voices, and a gentleman, a white gentleman, was very uncomfortable, right? And you know, not to take away from his story, but you know, we were sharing with him like, you know, now you know how it feels to be a Black person in white spaces, which is the majority of the world all the time. And I said, you know, amplifying a Black voice and Black struggles opens the door for everyone. And so that's what I hear in what you just said. Like, I'm in a wheelchair, like, my physical disability, not that it trumps all, but, you know, if you can walk through the door and I just can't, like, let me speak. And because when I get through the door, everyone gets through the door.
Everybody gets through the door.
Everybody, like that ramp will be accessible to everyone. So you can walk, crawl, roll, you know, whatever you need to do.
Seriously, that once that curve cut opens up, they make sure it's braille at the end. They make sure it's access for me, right? Like it's all of those things. But you know what I find is that if we still can speak from when we speak disability advocacy and we leave out the individuals that really have the true barriers that they face, like pain, like so think of I mean a person with a spinal cord injury. I don't just have, I'm not just in a wheelchair, right? Like I am, a spinal cord injury leaves you paralyzed from a certain level of your spine. So some individuals are neck down, right? But just because you can't feel don't mean you can't feel. So you still deal with the static pain. You still deal with spasms. You still deal with some things that some individuals that have an invisible disability are dealing with without the paralyzed feeling, without the mobility device, right? Again, I'm not taking away, but when you think about advocacy, It's just like you want to make sure that you speaking from your level, but also speaking from the level of the people that don't have the access,
Yeah.
because it brings a hope. And so when I think about the airport here in Kansas City, I talk about it all the time, and they're like, "Oh, it's the most accessible airport,"
You were
and
like, huh?
it's like, no, it's not, because when it comes to a certain part, it eliminates the access for me as a
Mhm.
manual wheelchair user, right? But so whoever advocated, which it was us, and they just didn't listen to us, but
Mhm.
whoever listened to the advocacy and chose their own vision of it still created a barrier that some people are like, oh, it's fine. That represent the disabled community. And for me, I'm like, man, every time I get off this plane, I'm building up momentum to go up this ramp, and people are looking at me, but right? And it's like that's not a good pleasing feeling when I could just roll through, right? Like create access where it's easy for me as it's easy for someone else, because it might be easy for you now, but it's going to be hard for you later. And I think it's just one of those things that we always want stuff to look really good. But what
Mhm.
I find is that most people, even able-bodied, will use the accommodations that are for people with
That's true.
disability. Think
That's
about
true.
how many people use the elevator. And
Mhm.
and I'm speaking from, if the stairs are right next to you, the elevator right there. You can have an escalator, right? But you still
Yes.
choose the elevator. So what happens when the elevator stops working? I face that barrier, right?
Right. Everybody else can.
Everybody else can still go and choose another route.
Yeah.
That's what I'm speaking from, right? We use the access and not think about the access. And then when the access is a barrier, we're thinking someone else is the issue. No,
Mhm.
we're the issue for not being open enough to see that we create access for everybody. Because if we utilize the systems, we should make sure the systems work all the time, right? And I just think that that's when I have my ups and downs when I think about Disability Pride Month, because I still feel like there's moments where I'm proud of it, but the barriers that are still within society, the barriers that are still within certain people's mindsets, and the barriers that are within the advocacy
Hmm.
doesn't make me a proud person when I have to still face it. And and unfortunately, it's not amplified like it was the years before. What I found is they've taken away a lot of the physical disability that does have the barriers and brought in all the other disabilities that eliminates the barriers to be advocates. And so that's for me too, is for me to look at and acknowledge that they was
Right.
rolling wheelchairs left and right until they realized they couldn't get the ramps right, or they
Right.
realized the lift didn't work right. Like,
Right.
so now I don't. Can we choose another disability that can walk, like, or
So
come
we
back?
don't have to like pay attention to.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Like, and that's what we have been witnessing. And so for me, it's just to bring that awareness to people. It's like I see what you're doing, and it's not right, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of people that utilize what I use.
Right.
And because you're still trying to make yourself comfortable, you're not actually creating access for all.
Right. 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 And it seems as though there's not, like you said, there's just not the support, and there's not the outpouring of support this year as there was, for 2-3 years, because for a while it just wasn't, and then for 2-3 years they're like, oh
Everything happened after 2020,
yeah, right,
So
right,
yeah, so everything happened after 2020, when the bigger, when a lot of voices were trying to be heard, and then more causes and things happened, and so everything was amplified and was good for 2 to 3 years, and then
now it's just like,
this year everything is going back into a comfort level.
right,
You
right.
know,
And I think people, like, when we talk about like what just happened with affirmative action, like that's just not isolated to like race-based emissions. Like this is going to affect all of us,
yeah,
especially accessibility. Like when we talk about DEIJ, like this is affecting all of us. And people are kind of like, oh, we don't have to put resources into making sure places have universal design or accessible for all. When again, why does it hurt to put braille in places, to put ramps that are accessible, to, create more space? I would use a shower that had wheelchair accessibility, just like you would. I don't have a problem.
yeah. You know, everybody want to roll in the shower if they can. You just walking in, right? You ain't got to get up.
Yes.
Like, seriously, in the words of my friend Stephanie Thomas, you're just creating a world you wouldn't want to live in.
Mm.
And you know, and that's how I feel every time, like when we talk about access, like they're just creating a world they don't want to live in. And I'm like, you are so right, because when you overlook it, and then when something happened to you, you're frustrated, you're trying to remodel, you're trying to do things different with a home. Like, I still haven't found a home that I'm truly comfortable with, because I know I have to remodel or build new. Like,
Right.
a lot of people don't think about the lack of access in a lot of areas, you know. And instead, when we find somebody that has a limitation, or parents, right, for example, we just send them off to a home or something that has
Mhm.
access, but we don't recreate a house. We don't, every now and then, I'm not gonna say if you got money, I'm sure y'all doing what it do, but
Right.
within local communities, there's nothing being recreated. It's, you're just being pushed out where you can be comfortable, and we still live this able-bodied community. And instead of changing homes and focusing on the school system, you know, universities aren't fully accessible, you know, and airports, it's all these things that have a barrier.
Right.
Transportation, right? Like, it's you seen that video I did when I was at the hotel. Like, have anybody ever thought about the hotel shuttles not being accessible?
Right. Like people are just like, oh, whatever. And you're like, no.
And everybody, if you're blessed enough, you get on that shuttle, especially if it's close to the airport, you're making a quick trip, whatever. But for me, I would have to pay for a vehicle, get some type of access, because their shuttles aren't accessible. I
Which
have,
is extra money.
which is extra money, right? For me, I might be okay, as some people have said, but for a majority of the disabled community, that's a barrier. When you don't get a lot of access to funds, you're limited to the amount of funds you can make in a year if you have government funding, right? Like, having a disability also creates barriers when it comes to finances. So why is everything around for access more expensive than everything else?
Right.
Right.
Right. Because
And
you
it's
can't pay,
very,
you can only pay so much, and then you'll lose your access to health care.
listen. Yeah, right. You know, I was just telling somebody, I said, you know, more and more I travel out of these countries, this free healthcare over there don't sound too bad, you know,
Right.
or free education, right? Like, I'm not knocking where we at, but I will say, for me to represent a community that is lacked of access and healthcare and all of these things, to see it being provided freely in other countries, it just really hits you differently. You
Yeah.
know, man, it does. And it looks, and again, it's not denied access to everybody within our country. It's just denied access to half of the individuals, especially as you see with the affirmative action, or what I seen over in Kansas City of, like, you know, our court system trying to eliminate scholarships for Black students, you know, in Missouri. So it's constant things happening, books being removed. You know, it's crazy. But when you go, everybody has their own battles, right? Everything is not perfect. But what I'm just speaking of is, like, even healthcare for me. Yeah, life is okay now, but I always think, like, you know, if I have to go back and get healthcare, will I be able to access it because I had it, then they took it away because I started making money, and then what happens when I'm ready to get back comfortable because I do have a disability, right? And what are the loops and stuff I go through to try to get that back? And those are things that we think about, you know. Or should I make money because they're just going to, you know what I mean? Like, and then I don't have this opportunity.
You like pay for your health care yourself, and then you have to pay so much more money, which kind of defeats the purpose of you trying to work to make the money.
You know, and it's all of those things. So again, like, when we think about Disability Pride Month, like, yeah, you know, there's a lot of, it's reasons. I'm proud of my disability because it allowed me to become who I am.
Right.
But when it comes to the barriers and the ability to live an independent life and have access, from financial to housing to just in the streets, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there are barriers, right, for me to feel equal as everyone else just because
Right.
I have a mobility device, right? Like I don't even go to the doctor as much. I feel like some of my friends and stuff, my people go to the doctor more than me, but at the same time, I'm the one running up the bill, and it's because when you check a box, it just adds an extra, cha-ching to it, right? Like, oh.
Yes. Yes, because it's all privatized. It's hard. I so we didn't want to get you all, everybody who's watching, like we want us to be sober and to really speak truth to the reality of life and the reality of Disability Pride Month. But we want you to celebrate, and we want you to honor, acknowledge, and be
Hone in.
grassroots. Go on the front line.
Hone in. But like April said, it's just like Black History Month, y'all. It can't just be 1 month. It can't just like Pride Month last month, right? Can't be just 1 month. Embrace us throughout the year. Embrace the intersections that come with, ableism and able, like, right, like accept just humans. And then if we could do that, then every month is everybody month, right? Like,
Yeah, I like that. And everybody much. I like that a lot. I was looking up because I was like, when are the celebrations? And it looks like Pittsburgh is not going to be July, but August 25th, August 26th
nice.
is Disability Pride Month here. I tried to look up Kansas City. I don't know.
You just gonna just drop the bomb on me on what I need to be doing. That's what it feel like. Kansas City ain't got nothing happening.
I'm on the Google search. I was like, what's going on, Kansas City?
They're still working it out, they're still working it out.
That's okay. That's okay. And listen, here's another thing. We have a few more minutes, everyone, and we'll, leave on a high note. But don't put all the work on the folks that are trying to like bring themselves up too, right? So it's like,
yeah.
Wes, you can't be the one pulling and doing all the work, right? You're like, I am disabled. Like as Black people, like don't make us do all the work. We're trying to breathe and heal and get through this too. So we need the allies. We need the whole community to do the work.
We need the whole community to do the work. I love that. I mean, I always say, like, be the voice for the people that's not in the room. So that's if you could sum up everything I just said, it's just that, if you're proud, make sure that you're speaking for those that might not be so proud. You're speaking for those that are but can't be heard. And it's all of those different things, no matter what it is, right? Like that's the beauty of it, having empathy. You get to speak for everything and everyone because you just understand what comes first, and that's just the human ability to love someone no matter their differences, right? Like,
exactly.
So,
and lean not into your own understanding. Like if you don't understand something, ask.
Boom, that part.
No, like you can speak, but then you could say, like, like you said, Wes, I didn't know what it meant to be blind and deaf at the same time until you had that immersive experience. And then someone who was shared with you.
Mm-hmm.
Now you could speak differently because you hear someone's lived experience and you can help amplify their voice.
Experience is the teacher that owes no favors, y'all. So you gotta listen to them.
Wesleyisms.
You see my background. I'm coming up with my bookshelf.
I was gonna tell you, Wes, it's looking like nice back there.
I'm vibing out. I don't know, like I got my little Nipsey Hussle obituary over there. I'm gonna do my little Nipsey wall in a little bit, and then I got my books. So I don't know how I'm gonna do the books yet, but I'm it's exciting to go to like bookstores and stuff and find books that are on ancient history and different, I started grabbing books on language. Like I really want my own library, right? Like, and so I'm like, I want to be able to pull a book like, I'm going to France. Let me learn a couple words, right? Like seriously.
I like that. So with that being said, I what are you? I'm so excited about this multi-language. You know, like I don't tell people I speak Spanish, and then when people come to me to speak Spanish, I like, okay, I speak Spanish. And I've been doing my Duolingo, plug for Duolingo, because
Oh, I
they're
love that.
headquartered here in Pittsburgh. Because my mother used to say Americans are so ignorant, and when you go to other countries, people speak multiple languages. They're like
Yeah.
Spanish, French,
Yeah. Seriously.
Greek, you know.
Like even when I
Italian.
was in Israel, I would ask people like, hey, how, what's the proper way to say, hello or thank you? And they would tell me, right, like, and then it was funny, they're like, but don't say thank you, don't nobody say thank you over here. Like, it's just like, so we know you're American if you say thank you. I'm like, oh my God. Like, but I said thank you, but then I would say thank you in their language, and then in American, like thank you, and then, like it was funny. But I was adjusting, so.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm so thankful you had that experience, and I'm looking forward to traveling more too. And with your books in the background, I know, you know, we were taking a little bit of a break, wasn't, reading as much or listening as much, kind of writing your own. What have you been reading or listening to or lately, or if anything?
Nope, I'm still like,
Yeah.
I've bought a few books, but I haven't really tapped into anything lately. I just finished drafting my gratitude journal, so
Mm.
I had to start smaller, right? Like I do have my book coming, but something that I can literally practice and use every day, or that I do every day, and now have something tangible for other people to start to learn their journey, not just read mine. Um,
Right.
and so I thought of that approach being first. And so that's what I just kind of finished up on. And so I don't know, like I'm on this autobiography kick, maybe because I'm trying to write my own. And so
That's good.
I've just been, I bought like Alex Haley's.
Oh, really?
Recently. I got Gucci Man's back there. I got from the store yesterday. Like, so I'm probably gonna start skimming through those and trying to look at it. Oh, and I bought like a Shakespeare book. So I don't know. It was something like, let me start to read and see how the words were articulated back then, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I love that. I love biographies. I have Obama's most recent one, which I haven't read. I've read his other two. And I think I told you a few months ago, Viola Davis's
ooh,
autobiography.
okay, I get it.
When I tell you it is powerful, which, we're running out of time, but I would read it too. And we need to like talk about the strike. I was talking to
Mm,
my cousin the other day. Wes knows all my family's home, and I'll be there next month. But she's an esthetician, and she does it part-time, but she's like, the writers are on strike, the actors are on strike, I don't have any business. And people don't think about how it affects the greater economy.
yeah,
Like, not all actors are Viola Davis, and her story is good. All actors are actually, because the struggle is real, but
yeah,
not everyone is a multi-million dollar actor. Like, there's a
yeah.
real
You
thing.
grassroots. Some of these people that are on some of these shows, they're still hustling.
Mm-hmm.
And they just make ends meet. So I know a lot of people that are, just having to figure out finances and things right now, and they've been nervous, but now it's hit them, right? And
Yeah.
so,
And this is right after the pandemic too. Like, don't forget, like, people were so shut down, and people think Hollywood, LA, everyone has money. No, it's a struggle.
it's a
The
struggle
hustle is
everywhere you go.
real.
Yeah,
It is
everywhere.
real. So, support. My son became a part of a union, and I was like, how'd you become in the union? Like, I won't tell all his business. And he was like, well, I don't even know what it means. I'm like, your family comes from a union family. My uncle was a foreman. I was a teacher. Like, it's important to have that support, because if you
Yeah.
don't, big corporations can really just take over. So I'm not trying to get political, everyone,
Sending
but
love to everybody that's going through the strike right now, and hopefully you guys come to terms very soon. Get back to working, because these reruns gonna drive people crazy in a little bit.
I
All
can only do so much. I can only do so much. Like,
right,
keep the arts alive.
keep the
So,
art. There you go. Keep the arts alive.
um, All right. Yeah. I haven't been reading much in either. Outlive is a book I'm reading, which talks about just how medicine can be more proactive when it comes, when it comes to healthcare, because everything we've done still hasn't changed the trajectory of how the majority of human beings die, which is high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, all these diseases. So it's been a really good book. But that's it.
I love that.
So, happy July.
Right. I hope everybody, came on here with open mind and left with something good. I mean, I definitely feel fulfilled through this. So I appreciate you, April. Shout out to Amy back there for always interpreting for us. So thank you.
We're not supposed to, like, she's in the background, but we're about to amplify Amy too, y'all. One day you need to hear her story. We'll have somebody interpret for her. So have a beautiful month, everyone. Our newsletter will come out. I'll drop some of the links. I'll, share disabled but not really what's going on. And you all please reach out to us when you can. So we'll see you. We're gonna try. I'm trying to figure something out for August, so maybe you'll see us in person. We'll see.
No, absolutely. We'll talk about it, April.
All right.